you know, I've been doing these for a number of years, and I guess this year I have more moving parts than I've ever had. So I brought my iPad. We have some slides for you to look at, and instead of having me look around, I'm going to be able to look at them here. But it's always a pleasure to do this presentation. And first off, I like to thank people. And instead of doing it at the end, I thank them at the beginning. And Molly Gillespie put the slideshow together for me and helped me work with the slides and took my thoughts and put them into some pictures. So very helpful to do that. This year is going to, the speech is going to be a little bit different than it's been in the past. I'm going to look back 10 years. And this was a census year. And let's go look back and look at Elgin, what it was like 10 years ago and what it's like today, and how the changes have impacted us and the changes that we're all going to see for the future. Instead of doing questions at the end of the program today, at the end of the speech, I'm going to ask 3 members of the chamber to stand up and tell us what they see the future of their business is going to hold for us for the next 5 to 10 years. And then I'll finish by talking what I see for the city of Elgin in the next 5 or 10 years. And it's always a hard thing to do. It's always a hard thing. And, you know, I don't think anybody ever punishes you if you miss the target. But it's always helpful to people when we start looking at this that we see the important things and put things in perspective for us. First thing, I want to congratulate all of the volunteers that worked on the census team. And made Elgin Census, we're one of the few communities in the area that grew. Some lost population, some stayed the same. And I think it was because of hard work. I think it was because of hard work of the volunteers that worked on the census team. And they went out, we had a great plan, we started early, and we got a jump start on just about every community around us. And I think that paid dividends for us. The importance of a census for every citizen that we sign up is $1,500 a year in potential federal assistance back to the city of Elgin. So it's critical when we do a count that it's accurate. Elgin went from the 8th largest city to the 4th largest, or the 6th largest city. We're one of the fastest growing cities in Illinois. We are 6th in Illinois in building permits. So we're one of the leading communities in the state in housing. The people that worked on this census came from broad backgrounds. They were passionate. They shared one thing. They were very passionate about going out and doing the census and being fair. And I want to thank just a few of them. And I can't thank everybody because we had quite a group that worked on it. Karina Nava from the city of Elgin helped spearhead it, along with Denise Raleigh from Gale Borden Public Library, Karen Fox, Jaime Garcia, Cherie Murphy, and Martha Martinez. And we went out and counted people, and it was a challenge this last year, to do that, because people were scared. People were scared of COVID. They were afraid to let people in their house. We tried to do things in a remote way to get people to sign up. They were also scared because of saber rattling out of Washington about immigration. People were afraid to put their name on a piece of paper for fear that they would be deported. And that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable in Elgin. These fears were, I think, were very real to those people. And even though our count did show an increase, I think we undercounted as well. So I think we're a little bit over the 115,000 people that we've reported. We're successful because of the volunteers. And the census showed a change and a shift in the demographic population of the city of Elgin. We see that Latinos and Hispanic community has continued to increase. Also, continental Asians have increased at a rapid rate in the city of Elgin. And that bodes well for the future because they're going to come in and take leadership roles. One of our challenges as a city, as a mayor, are to make sure that we can involve these people in that process and get them into the process of becoming leaders within our community. It's a significant shift for us. There's a potential change for leadership. The many years of effort to establish a diverse and welcoming city has resulted in an integrated community. Our at-large system of government does not lend itself well to creating wards and neighborhoods based on ethnicity. We have scattered housing. We have housing all over the city of Elgin. I have neighbors that moved in a transition neighborhood in Eagle Heights. 4 or 5 of my neighboring houses now are owned by Hispanics. And I enjoy talking to them. We share a beer once in a while out in the yard. And this community is changing in that respect in the last 10 years. We are succeeding in eliminating segregation and delivering the goal of an integrated society. And Elgin's going to take a lead in that role in the next 10 years. Let's take a look at the numbers of how we have changed in regards to revenue, expenditures, geography, the number of employees that the city has. As you can see, the city has, I always talk about how do you govern and how I view being the mayor of the city of Elgin. When I worked at the Water Reclamation District, I looked at my job and as a public servant that wanted to run that like a business, that there has to be a profit and a loss, there has to be a concern for the revenue and the expenditures from the taxpayers. And I really believe in that, and it's two-pronged. One, we needed to have a really good idea of how to generate the revenue that we were going to fund the city of Elgin. When I first ran for mayor, I ran on the campaign that we were too dependent on property taxes, and we needed to shift. And at that time, worked with staff and the city council, and we created a system of a diverse system of revenue streams that included some additional taxes and fees, but resulted in a reduction in the property tax. Property tax today is about 23% of the revenue stream, compared to 42% 10 years ago. And this allows us to grow and continue to grow even when economic times are tough, and it balances it out and spreads the cost of operating government equally through the community. And I call them a use tax. The more you use, the more it costs you in taxes. And it creates an incentive for people to conserve energy, to conserve their electric use, their gasoline use, and pays benefits on the other side of the coin for us as well. One of the things I think that was a difficult sell at that time when we first talked about this is that because many not-for-profits don't pay property tax, that this would be a tax on some of the businesses. And I always use Sherman Hospital as an example. Huge building, they paid no property tax. They're not for profit, but they do use a lot of electricity. So that became a source of revenue for us that was not there. And politically, it was kind of a tough challenge to go through. But the people in the city of Elgin looked at that and saw the reasoning behind how to fund the city and thought that this was a proper way to do it. Not only did this work in Elgin, but many of the neighboring communities followed us and took Hoffman Estates, for example, is one. Changed the way that they fund their business as well and their community as well. And I look at it as running a business. And when we have employees or we have issues, we have to deal with it just like a business deals with it. And I remember the hard times in 2006 and 2007 when we were going through an economic crisis and we had to lay off people. It was a sad, sad day for us. Many friends lost their job, and we try to stay away from that. So we try to stay as lean as we can so that doesn't happen again. And we weathered through some difficult times in the last 10 years. You can look at the number of employees and compare us back to 10 years ago. Population's gone up about 5,000 people, as the census tells us. We've added almost 10% more housing units. We've also added more parks. But the number of city employees didn't go up very much. It only went up 40 over that time period. Police and fire stayed about the same, not changed in over a decade. Public works employees dropped over 10%, and we've added more streets and more challenges for them to do, street repairs, and we have less employees. Some of the things that we have done that have really pushed us forward is the changes in technology. And we've adapted to technology. We've adapted to that and been proactive and looked for technological changes that can make us more efficient. One of the things I want to talk about very quickly is we changed it with Manager Stiegel had a vision for a 311 program in the city of Elgin, where complaints could be filed by phone. And that made a difference. We talk about code enforcement being something, I'll get to that towards the end when we talk about surveys, as code enforcement always being an issue. Well, the old method would require somebody to contact the code department. They'd have to go through a process of a complaint. And now it goes to 311, and we get the sift and the sort and can assign those to the best person to do it. And as mayor, Dave Kaptain's favorite line when I get a complaint from a citizen or a business that has an issue, I said, I will thank you for your email. I will share it with the staff person best qualified to answer your question because I ain't that guy. And I share it with staff. And that makes us more efficient. Cuts out the number of phone calls that we have. People don't have to get tied up in the bureaucracy. We can move quickly through a city of one of the largest cities in the state of Illinois without getting stopped in the bureaucracy of it. One quick thing when we talk about businesses, when they come to Elgin, they talk about Elgin being business friendly. And we have a thing called fast tracking. When people come and apply for a permit, they want to build a business, they want to build a house, they want to expand, we try to fast track and get them through our process as quickly as possible because to them, time is money. And this for me goes back to the time I was on planning almost 20 years ago when developers came in and they'd get bogged down on the planning commission because, we'd come back, well, you're going to need this study or you're going to need that, you're going to need this. We don't operate like that anymore. We try to make it as expeditious as possible to get people through the process and get them to do what they do best. And that's to operate their business and get into business. When we talk about some of the things that are really important for us, we want to talk a little bit about vacancy rates and how the city is compared to other communities around us. We've done a great job over time with a number of organizations to keep our city thriving and active. And you can look at the vacancy rates for the city of Elgin and you see that we're very competitive with those communities around us. I just heard today that, or last night, that the city of Chicago's vacancy rate on the Magic Mile and in the Loop is 30%. Incredible. And for them, that's going to cause long-term problems if they don't get that fixed. I'm going to touch a little bit on that. What I think one of the reasons is as we get a little bit farther along. Even though we had some tough times with COVID and we looked at financing, we were a little concerned about where the money was going to come from. We continue to do our projects. We continue to do street projects. We did all the work that we needed to do. We've maintained streets. We did a plaza downtown, and we've tried to keep up with some of the things that were important to the community. And we'll continue to do that. You have to keep doing business as best you can to move along. Some of the businesses that you're going to see behind us here that have come to Elgin, new businesses or expanding businesses, have committed to staying in Elgin. We have some new businesses downtown. We want to talk a little bit about some changes in what people see. And Atlantic Packaging is a new business that's building in Elgin. Going to be the largest manufacturer of cardboard boxes in North America. And their vision is that boxes are going to be used by Google, by FedEx, for shipping products to people that are going to continue to grow, and that's going to be a growing business, and that's their vision for the next 5 or 10 years. So they've committed to coming to the city of Elgin, and we met with them, and that we were thrown into the competition with other communities around the United States, and they chose Elgin because of the community that we live in. We have some expanding people like Shaw, Medela, Sherwax, that are expanding their facility as well. They see growth in Elgin, and we're happy to have that. You know, one of the things I've had some of the people from other communities, I talked to mayors and council members and elected officials, and said Elgin's really lucky to have these things happen. And I was reading a book the other day, and this thought stuck with me. It came from the thought process about what happens with luck. And he said that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. And that becomes luck. You make your luck sometimes. And look back 25 or 30 or 40 years ago, decisions were made in this city that determine our future today. When the city of Elgin decided to go to the Fox River for its drinking water supply, when the Fox River Water Reclamation District expanded to provide enough wastewater treatment capacity to allow for growth, we sat there and looked, and we didn't see that growth for a long time. But we knew it was there. We had the capacity to do this, and we saw that this was going to be an advantage for us in the future, and today's that day. We're prepared, we're set to move forward, and we have a plan for moving forward as a city. And I want to thank some people today. And economic development in the city of Elgin is different than in a lot of communities. It's a combined effort. And it's a multi-pronged approach to economic development. The Chamber and the Economic Development Group, the EDG, help bring large businesses. Meet with us. We share that purpose with the city of Elgin to have discussions. The city of Elgin, some people call and they want to talk to the mayor for some reason. I don't know why, but they want to talk to the mayor. And I tell them to talk to the person best qualified to deal with it. And that might be the city manager or Mark Malott or Bill Codley, our economic development team. The Downtown Neighborhood Association helps find businesses and helps growth in the downtown. That's an important part of the community. That's something that we've talked about, regenerating and growing back to what it was a few years ago. It's been a struggle. I've been here all my life, and I remember the days when the watch factory moved out and the buildings in the downtown, the air got sucked out of it. And it stayed out of it for many, many years and started to grow back, and we're seeing some growth now. We're seeing occupancy rates, as you can see, for retail are at record levels for us. The organization that we sometimes forget about is the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And they work to bring people to the city of Elgin, and sometimes the best way to sell a community is to have people come and take a look at it and come and visit. I've had some friends tell me they had people come from Boston to visit them. First time they ever come to Elgin. They stayed here for a couple weeks to visit with them and some family. And they walked through downtown Elgin, and they said they were stunned at what a city of this size looked like in the downtown. It was clean, it was safe, and they said they came from Boston, and they said they wished that Boston looked like that. So that's a good thing for us, and that kind of word gets back to other people. Lastly, we have a new business. We have a minority business development agency that's moved into the building with the same city-owned building with the chamber and with the DNA. And they're going to help minority businesses get started in the city of Elgin and provide them some guidance. And that's important for us. The minority business leaders in this city are going to be the people that we're going to follow in the next 10 years. That's going to be part of our future. I want to talk a little bit about the core values and our defined goals. That defines us as a city. It defines us as a city council. It gives us the direction. And we sit down, we talk about these things. We poll the city, we talk to people, and we come up with common goals for ourselves. Collaboration is a goal that many communities, and when I started, we didn't work well with some of our neighbors, but we've changed that. And we have a good relationship with the communities around us. No better example of collaboration than the Alignment Collaborative for Education. Over 200 volunteers work to make education in the city of Elgin and School District U46 a priority. When we started that, we had a different vision. And we talked about people going to work that may not be able to graduate from college. And how do we provide those types of education for people and send them in a proper direction? We've put together a tremendous team of people from business, education, local government to help educate young people and to get them in a direction where they can be successful in life, whatever they choose to do. Dr. Sam told us a few months ago, that Elgin Community College graduates more Hispanic students than virtually any other college in the United States. I think that's terrific. And those people will become our leaders. The Alignment Collaborative looks at young people, and we want to work with them to find out and put them in a position where they can be successful. But we also want to help them find a career that they want to do. And nothing can be more important to a young person than being able to do the things that they want to do. They may not feel they want to go to college. They may not be able to because maybe they have 5 or 6 brothers and sisters, and it's just not in the cards for them to do that. But there's no reason why they can't be successful in the city of Elgin. We tried to match. When we looked at this, I looked at the Alignment Collaborative and businesses, and we were like this. The businesses needed people, and the schools were graduating kids that couldn't fill those jobs. Now we're working together so that the collaboration between business and education will turn out an educated workforce that will make Elgin a leader for many, many years to come. Diversity improvements have been shown by our demographic shift. There's still work to be done. We need to bring people into government and include them in part of the process of how we govern ourselves. Some is a cultural issue. People don't necessarily want to get involved. People that came from Southeast Asia, many of my friends from Laos, that's something that is not what they would do in their own country, to bring it back to the United States makes it more difficult. But over time, we'll cover that hurdle and we'll get people involved, and that's our goal. City manager and I have met on this a number of times, that we want to involve people in the city government and get them involved with governing themselves. A safe community. Elgin is one of the safest large cities in the state of Illinois. I don't know if it's still true or not, but we were the second large city behind Naperville with the lowest crime rate. People didn't believe that. Former Mayor Schock and I talked about that for years, that Elgin is safe, but we had to overcome the anecdotal information that was out there about Elgin. And the only thing that makes that happen is statistics. And again, we look back, we look at science, we look at computers, we track things. Elgin's crime rate today the major crime rate today is lower than it was almost 50 years ago. Think about that for a minute. I'm 73 years old. I was 23 years old, and Elgin's crime rate was higher for major crimes then than it is today. And Elgin's population has doubled. That says a lot. This town has worked hard to make that happen, and it's paying dividends. One of the things I think that we need to make the connection, and I want to do that here before I start to wrap up, that the Elgin Police Department over the years has done many, many things to make Elgin a safer place. From traditional law enforcement to the ROPE program, to its current community policing model, and now with the creation of the Collaborative Crisis Services Unit involving mental and behavioral health, substance use disorder services, and homelessness as part of their purview to make Elgin a safer place. The police department has been a leader in innovation. People come from all over the world to look and to talk to the people that work in the city of Elgin's police department. They're a leader, and that's made the difference. I think I can make a connection and say that if you look at the graph for the past 50 years for crime rate, the growth of the city of Elgin would be the inverse. People feel safe, they'll move to a community. They want to have a safe place to raise their kids. They want to have a safe place to operate their business. And that is a part of the defining thing for the city of Elgin. Lastly, we do citizen surveys. And those surveys tell us how we're doing, how we do our job. The last 2 years, the people have been generally content in the city of Elgin. There's a positive perception about the city of Elgin. And don't forget, many of the people that fill this survey out may not have lived here 4 or 5 or 6 years ago because of transition and people moving. Transparency and customer service are conversations are the cornerstones of our city's government. We believe we're transparent. We're going to stay to be transparent. We want to make sure that customer service stays at a priority. When people call with a complaint, we try to get it resolved and do it as quickly as we can. The top priorities for the survey remain the same from 4 years ago. They talk about maintenance of streets and sidewalks, enforcement of codes and ordinances. And I think they'll be, if we do another survey in 5 years, those two issues will probably still be at the top of the list because they're very hard to fix. They're a constant issue within a community. And streets and sidewalks wear out. And we're going to continue to see that as an issue in the near future. And I'll finish here before we go on and talk a little bit about visioning and my philosophy on code enforcement. Code enforcement's a good thing as long as it's not being done in your house. If it's the guy up the street, it's a good thing. And I think that's one of the problems. I think that's been one of the problems. And code enforcement has to be spread equally amongst the community so everybody benefits from it, and people that have not done the things they need to do to meet the codes will have to make the corrections. We try to work with people and be user-friendly. We don't want to put anybody out of their house, and I said I don't want to see somebody fined for not painting their front porch steps if they can't afford to feed their family. So we're working with that. We'll continue to work with that to make Elgin a better place to live. Now we're going to go a little bit differently from in the past. We used to talk about the mayor's vision for what's going to happen in the future first, and today we're not going to do that. I'm going to ask 3 people to talk about their vision for their business and what they see for the city of Elgin for a couple minutes. Members of the board, and the first person I'm going to call on is Mike Warren from Britain's Car Wash.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. So as many of you know, Carol gave me a minute and a half, and it's hard for me to do anything in a minute and a half.
There you go.
I could talk about several organizations that I'm passionate about here in town. You mentioned the car wash, and we all know you don't want to drive a dirty car. But the business I wanted to talk about today was Reiki Office Interiors, where I've spent my time since 2006. And what touched on with your presentation, Mayor, was how important economic development is to our business at Reiki. Many of those names you saw on that screen are clients of ours. And without them coming to Elgin, our business is much different than it is with a vibrant economic engine that we have here in Elgin. Gold Coast Logistics, moving into town, a brand new business moving to Illinois, chose Elgin, and they chose us as their furniture provider. It's one of our largest orders this year, almost $1 million. So without that kind of activity in our community, we're a small, furniture manufacturer. When we have an economic engine like that, we're going to have the best year ever. We're probably going to be well over $20 million. We're a 25-year-old company. We have over 75 employees, people who live and work right here in Elgin, and we're proud to give them a very good working environment, good pay, pride in their work by just making beautiful furniture, and allowing companies that move to town to support their community. Also, we've grown quite a bit to realize that more people are working from home, so our interior design division has tripled over the last 2 years. We do home office interior design along with commercial interior design. And as you talk about, you asked what we see for the next 10 years, is I see that design firm growing to help companies really establish what their culture, what they want to show their employees and their customers when they walk into their business. And so that's going to be a growing part of our business, which is going to feed the furniture business because they're going to need items to support those things. So sure, I went over the minute and a half, but I hope that was
Carol's the
I know. So but there's a ton of great organizations that I serve, and Food for Greater Elgin and Elgin Academy and Britain's Car Wash. I mean, I just think they all see the future really bright because of the great leadership in our city government and our city staff, making this a place that I want to have my son stay and grow his business. So thank you.
Thank you. Yaneth Medina. I asked Carol to try to put together a small group of people with a variety of businesses.
Well, not as long as Mike. We just tend to figure this way in our meetings. But as you know, we're with Elgin State Bank and part of the Wintrust Community Banks, and we believe in community. And we really align ourselves with all sorts of the community, both on the household level, personal customers, where we want to be there to educate. And I know a lot of our sister competition banks do the same thing, and we love that because we want to all be together and enhance our community and really provide financial literacy, which is well needed in a lot of our places here in the city of Elgin. But on the business side, we also want to grow on the Elgin development side and see businesses thrive. We love to see businesses that come into our bank and just need that education on how to grow their business. We love to see them moving from A to Z and be partners. And then also on the municipality part, we have a well-versed and a great knowledgeable people on the Wintrust side, where we want to be next to the leadership of the city and help support the leaders in the city to help infiltrate all they need from the financial perspective. And so we just want to be a partner, and we want to see Elgin thrive. And that's how I see ourselves in 10 years.
Terrific, thank you. And Jim Kaptain from Motorola.
Oh, good morning.
Listen.
Yeah, so I'm Jim Kaptain. I'm the site lead and the director for Motorola Solutions Elgin Operations. What we do here in Elgin, if you're not familiar with it, is we manufacture all the portable and mobile radios for Motorola for the world. We're the only manufacturer for these systems, not just the radios, but the systems and infrastructure to drive these systems. Motorola's been in Elgin. I think we're going on our 6th year here. Every year has been a year of growth. We've not just grown sales, we've grown headcount, we've added people every year we've been here. This is, we see this trend continuing. We're investing heavily in our Elgin operations through the pandemic, actually. Automation, technology, millions of dollars going into the building to foster our future growth. Our leaders see Elgin as the premier manufacturing site in the company, and we're gonna grow every year.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, everybody. My vision for the city of Elgin. I've talked a lot about doing some things. I do meet with business leaders through the chamber. We call it the President's Council. We share thoughts, we share ideas, different sizes, so it helps me formulate what I see as a future for the city and a future for our community. Virtual meetings will continue to be part of doing business. They'll result in less travel, great potential to increase productivity, but they also take away something. It's about this kind of a thing, networking. So I think we're going to come up with some kind of a hybrid somewhere at the middle ground. And maybe meetings won't be as frequent as they used to be, but they're going to be more efficient. In our climate, I work with Metro West Council of Governments. It runs all the way from really from Dundee down to Sugar Grove. And we have board meetings. It gets a little difficult in the wintertime to get people to drive 30 and 40 miles. I'm chairman of the Northwest Water Planning Association that talks about preserving drinking water for 5 counties. And some of our people have to drive 60 and 70 miles to get to the meeting, which we have at the rec center in Elgin. And I think those things are going to still be part of what we do, but we're going to modify some of those long distance meetings. I think online shopping and home delivery will become part of everyday life. We're seeing the shifts already in some of the retail. Some of the malls are having some real problems and being closed down. And I think mom and pop businesses, local businesses can benefit. People will be willing to drive close to home and look for certain things. They'll become more unique. But the home shopping, I think, will be something that's a little bit more important. The pandemic opened the door for something that hasn't been really part of a community in decades, and that was the home delivery of groceries. Back 50, 60, 70 years ago, when people didn't have cars, that was pretty common. You delivered groceries to people that couldn't get out and couldn't walk, and when the pandemic hit, people saw that as an opportunity, and grocery stores and businesses saw that as an opportunity to make money, and I think part of that is going to stick as well. And that's a good thing. We have a population in the city of Elgin. We had one of the fastest growing senior populations in the entire county and in the state of Illinois. And to be able to deliver food to those people that have problems getting out in the wintertime would be a blessing for them. I met with the director for the Northern Illinois Food Bank, and they are talking about doing a similar program where they're going to be able to deliver food to people that can't get there to pick it up. That's something that they have on their radar screen. They've seen that as a possibility. I think, you know, we talk a lot about good things. I think that Elgin's in a good place. We're probably in as good a place as we've ever been as far as economic growth and growth for our community and growth for the people that live here. But we have issues and that we're going to have to address. And I'm going to list for you 3 unfunded mandates that the city of Elgin is going to have a responsibility, and we're all going to have a responsibility to pay for. Combined sewer separation. When I started working at that time was the sanitary district of Elgin. The mandate from the federal government was we wanted to separate combined sewers to make sure that the rivers and streams of the state of Illinois and the country were clean. 50 years later, we're still working on it. And we're a long ways from making that happen. Our estimated cost for that to be completed in the city of Elgin is well over $100 million. Lead service lines. That was something we didn't look at until a few years ago when we had problems in Flint, Michigan. But now it manifests itself with every community that's an older community. Elgin has over 13,000 lead service lines, one of the highest in the state of Illinois, after the city of Chicago, where we don't even want to go. Our estimated cost for that is well over $100 million. And lastly, we have pension obligations for police and fire. We have a mandate from the state of Illinois to complete those pensions and make sure that every pension is paid for. A lot of us don't necessarily agree with the process that was put into that. Their thought process was that we want the city to be able to make sure that every pension will be paid if every police or police officer or fireman retired on the same day. And that's just not going to happen. And that's kind of an unrealistic approach to it, but it puts a burden on us, and we have kept up with our burden. But that burden will also be over $100 million. So the city of Elgin itself will owe almost $300 million over the next decades that we'll have to try to work our way through. The federal government may provide us with some relief here in the infrastructure package, and we may make some progress with that, but I don't hold my breath anymore. My favorite line, and I'll finish with that, I don't get excited until I see the little check. The big check is just a political thing to show for the people, but I want to see the little check in the mailbox so we can deposit it in the bank. Thank you for listening to me, and enjoy the rest of the day.